Yeah, make sure you go watch the Larry Bird mixtape. I just dropped it. You slacking. Yeah. I don't know what you're doing here. You ain't even watched that yet. But look, if you have watched that and you're here, welcome. Look, we got 10 scariest players in NBA history. Yes, sir. Let's get straight into it.
These players put fear in their opponents' hearts, not because of their skill or the number of points they were scoring, but because of their sheer physical strength and willingness to throw hands at any given moment. This is a list of players that know.
I might not know nothing about basketball, but Shaq gotta be in this video. You know, that man like 10 foot, bro.
Nobody wanted to mess with. The scariest NBA players of all time. There were plenty of NBA players who could fight, but only one was a real MMA fighter, James Johnson, a 6'7", 240-pound power forward who currently plays for the Pacers, was a lead vote-getter in a survey of who in the league would you least like to fight. Since he was 5 years old, Johnson trained karate, and who in the league would
that man just started swinging, bro.
you least like to fight. Since he was 5 years old, Johnson trained karate and is a black belt. He's also competed in kickboxing with a 20-0 amateur record and a 7-0 MMA record. He even said that he could beat John Jones if he had enough time to train wrestling.
Not gonna beat him for real. But like I said, with a year of training defense, I just need ground defense.
The whole league would say the same thing. One player said of Johnson, "That's not smoke they want. I've seen it in person." And it's easy to be a bully when you're one of the biggest and strongest guys in the court. But how about being one of the most terrifying players in the NBA while weighing less than 200 pounds? Vernon Maxwell was listed at 6'4" and 180 pounds, but his nickname Mad Max says everything you need to know. During his career, Maxwell was fighting guards, centers, opponents, teammates, and even spectators. And while he was in Houston, Max got into a heated argument with teammate Hakeem Olajuwon and nearly stabbed him to death.
But what is this, bro? How did this turn into a murder case? What's going on, bro? You out here trying to stab people, bro? You play basketball, bro. Why would you be this angry that you want to stab somebody, bro?
But Mad Max didn't stop there, because in 2000, when he played for Seattle, Mad Max wanted to beat up another teammate, Gary Payton. Vernon wanted to fight Payton so bad that he ended up hurting two of his teammates who tried to be peacemakers. And this next guy also dabbled in MMA.
There we go.
But he also happens to be the most physically dominant player of all time. During his prime, Shaq weighed between 330 and 370
that man
pounds.
is too big. Pause. It's too big. Yeah.
Move like a ballet dancer. His combination of size, strength,
I gotta do a
was
Shaq reaction.
And nobody could stop the Shaq attack. Not only was Shaq dominant, he was also vicious towards his opponents.
I mean, this guy was a force. He was mean. He was nasty.
The morning after you played with Shaq, it always felt like you were in a fight. You were sore from head to toe. Nazar Muhammad.
You're looking at him like the fear that you might get is he's doing that full
I ain't
speed.
gonna lie about that man. I don't know, bro. I don't know what they fed him. I don't know where they got that man from. But that nigga Shaq, nah, bro. That nigga looks like straight darkness, bro. I would hate to see that nigga across the room and he's angry.
Am I really going to try and take a charge on this?
Right. Like Father Time guarded Shaq. Only player ever to not shoot anything outside of the paint and dominate.
And when it comes to Shaq's dear frenemy on Inside the NBA, it's safe to say he had a little temper as well. Charles Barkley was an undersized big man, standing at only 6'6", but he was athletic,
Only
extremely physical,
6'6",
and wasn't backing down from anybody. Barkley's lists of fights and on-court incidents is extremely long, starting with this forearm knockdown, or that time when he single-handedly fought the bad boy Pistons. Barkley's career...
I have never in my life seen somebody throw a punch with a forearm. Do you understand how crazy that is? A forearm punch? And he knocked him down.
Was even in jeopardy at one point, because he was not only fighting on the court, but also getting into brawls with civilians. Like that time in 1997, when he got arrested after throwing a man through a glass window at a bar. Or in 1991, when Sir Charles infamously spat on a young girl sitting in the crowd.
A young girl?
Spit on someone else. When you combine that with all the fighting, cursing, and trash talk, Chuck was one of the baddest to ever lace him up. But how about being one of the craziest? Ron Artest served an 86-game suspension for the most gruesome incident in NBA history. But that was just one of his many incidents on the court. From the moment he arrived in the league in 1999 until he won a championship with Kobe in 2010, Artest was one of the most physical physical and aggressive defenders that nobody wanted to play against. In 2001, when Jordan was prepping for his second unretirement, Artest broke his ribs in a pickup game. But beyond being a world-class defender and a Defensive Player of the Year, Ron instilled fear in opponents because he was a wild man. Artest drank alcohol before and even during games. And he'd always...
What do you mean he drank alcohol before and during games? Why? Where is his team? What's going on? Why y'all letting this man drink in the middle of a game? I got so many questions I do not even want to
on the edge of getting ejected. In 2003, he nearly fought Pat Riley and the whole Miami Heat bench. And that same year, in a game against the Knicks, Ron got so mad that he destroyed some poor cameraman's equipment. You'd think that he'd calm down after serving his suspension for the malice at the Palace, but Artest just continued to punch people in the face. In 2007, Artest had to spend 20 days in jail for another off-court incident because he beat up his wife. But despite changing his name to Meta World Peace in 2011, his old habits remained. Just
God damn! Oh no, bro, that was lethal.
Habits remain.
That was so lethal, bro.
A decade before Artest started punching people on NBA courts, one particular bully was more terrifying than anybody. Charles Oakley came into the league in 1985, and he quickly gained a reputation for being an enforcer. When you needed a hard foul, Oakley was there. When a fight broke out between players, Oak was right in the middle of it. In 1989, he squared up against Xavier McDaniel, another colorful character who could easily be on this list. In the 1996 preseason, Oakley and Barkley got tangled up on a rebound, and Oakley tossed Barkley to the floor. It didn't matter that it was preseason, as both players immediately started swinging and got ejected. During the 1997 playoffs, Oak got into a fight with Alonzo Mourning. And next year, these two hotheads got into it again. In 2000, Oakley punched Clippers guard Jeff McInnes after a dispute over a mutual romantic interest. Oakley didn't even wait for the game to start. He punched...
Y'all are out here throwing hands in the middle of a court over love problems. Some of y'all disappoint me. I can't
McInnes
lie,
during
bro.
the pregame shoot-around. But maybe the biggest ass-whooping Oakley ever dealt was that of Tyrone Hill, who Oakley beat up over a gambling debt. Even after he retired from the league, Oak wasn't done fighting, as there were several reports of him beating up people who dared to step up to him. However, Oakley wasn't all brute and no heart, and he's the main reason one other scary guy even made it to the NBA. When he was a high school kid, Ben Wallace attended Charles Oakley's basketball camp, and Oakley, being Oakley, punched him in the face.
Got the ball, drive to the basket, bam. Hold me in the lip, split my jaw.
Because he showed no fear and played with tenacious energy, Oakley immediately fell in love with Wallace's game, and he recommended him to his alma mater, Virginia Union University. Without Oakley, Big Ben might have never played in the NBA, but once he made the league, he showed immediately that he was made of the same material as his mentor. At 6'9", Wallace was the shortest center in the league, but they called him Big Ben for a reason. See, Ben was a fitness freak who never left the gym and could bench 400 pounds. Reason. See, Ben was a...
I can't lie. That man look like a straight out crash out. You see that? That man don't even care to take care of his hair, bro. That's a face of somebody you don't really play with, you know. He ain't got nothing to lose, bro. It's the type of nigga I see outside in the street, drugged up, ready just to throw hands. Yeah.
Fitness freak who never left the gym and could bench 400 pounds. Due to his muscular body, face, and crazy afro, nobody was messing with him, and it didn't end well for the ones who tried. Honorable mention goes to his teammate, Rasheed Wallace, a guy who couldn't control his anger and who played like a ticking time bomb. Sheed was a walking technical foul, and he's the all-time leader in techs in a season with 41. But two Wallaces are not the baddest Detroit big men of all time. That title belongs to Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn, who put the bad in the bad boy Pistons. There wasn't an NBA player in the 80s who wasn't punched, elbowed, or shown to the floor by Detroit's big men, and they long had a reputation for being the dirtiest players ever, especially Laimbeer. While Mahorn was setting hard screens and throwing punches.
Yeah, I love to play defense. I like to bump and bang, I guess. And that's what's basically has been my job.
Laimbeer was also notorious for planting his feet in the player's landing space, which resulted in plenty of ankle injuries.
I didn't really ever like Laimbeer in any social situation.
No.
Yeah.
And it's because he's a dirty player.
And the final part of the Bad Boys
shit,
front court
Larry
trio
Bird
played the hardest of them all.
We just did a video on Larry Bird. Make sure you go check it out. Yeah.
Dennis Rodman was called the Worm, but his other nickname, Dennis the Menace, probably suits him even better. Playing with unlimited energy, Rodman would get in opponents' faces, trip them, annoy them, and not let them breathe.
What I'm seeing, the battle between these two guys. They're fighting, giving it everything they got.
Dennis wasn't the scariest player ever, but he was certainly one of the most irritating and physically difficult to play against. Nobody had an easy night against Rodman. And this next player was far from the biggest or the strongest, yet nobody wanted to mess with him, not even Shaq. Standing at 6'6" and 220 pounds, he may not look like a bruiser, but Jerry Stackhouse was a bad man, and somebody you didn't want to get angry. Stackhouse's fists have a long list of NBA faces on their resume. In 1996, he landed a couple of big haymakers on Jeff Hornacek during a game. In 97, Stack punched Allen Iverson in the face in practice, who was one of his best friends on the Sixers. However, if you think that Stack only went after little guys, think twice. In 99, Stackhouse beat the hell out of 6'10" Christian Laettner over a gambling debt. But the
gambling, what's going on with these gambling debts, bro? Y'all are NBA stars, bro. Come on. What's going on, bro?
Career happened in 2005 when he brutally beat down Jazz rookie Kirk Snyder. After the game in which Snyder provoked Stackhouse, Jerry asked his equipment manager for a tracksuit so he wouldn't mess up his suit. He then walked to the Jazz bus and put a smackdown on Snyder.
We were in the game. He gave me a cheap shot. I just kind of lost it. I wasn't worried about the game anymore, so now I just waited for him in the tunnel.
After which, arena security testified that Snyder received a severe beating. Treating it like any other day at the office, Stackhouse returned to the locker room, calmly handed over the tracksuit to the equipment manager, and put on his suit and tie like nothing happened. In the 2006 finals, after he fouled Shaq super hard, nobody from the Heat said a thing to Jerry, and even Shaq just walked away. And the last, but not least scary person on this list will always be remembered for his violence, and not for his 4 All-Star appearances. It's Latrell Sprewell, whose career lowlight is the 1997 choking of P.J. Carlesimo, his coach on the Golden State Warriors. Carlesimo yelled at Sprewell to try a little harder in practice, and wanted him to put a little mustard on his passes. Spree was in a bad mood that day, and something triggered him to attack his coach. Latrell threatened to kill his coach, and started...
Boy, it's just basketball, bro. I promise you it's just a sport. What do you mean you trying to kill him?
Dragging him backward by the throat like a rag doll, proceeding to choke out Carlesimo for a good 10 seconds before he got pulled away by his teammates. After he spent 10 minutes in the locker room, Spree still wasn't satisfied and came back to attack his coach again. Because of apparent marks on Carlesimo's neck, the NBA issued an investigation and suspended Sprewell for 68 games.
68 games.
But this...
See, that's what you get, bro. 68 games is crazy, but trying to kill your coach is crazier.
Wasn't the only beating of Spree's career. In 1995, he beat up teammate Jerome Kersey and then returned to practice with a 2x4, threatening to kill Kersey. Then,
why you threatening to kill niggas?
He came to the Knicks practice camp with a broken hand, which he broke after an assault on his yacht. And before we finish this off, here's a couple of honorable mentions of the scariest guys ever. There's Karl Malone, the all-time leader in technical fouls, and the unofficial all-time leader in elbows thrown. Then there's Kenyon Martin, who made a career out of being tougher and meaner than his opponents. Kevin Garnett made most rookies' lives a living hell. Ivan Johnson was called Ivan the Terrible and made people uncomfortable just by his presence. And the 2 hosts of the All Smoke podcast were no strangers to a fistfight. Javaris Crittenden, Anthony Mason, David West, Quincy Acey, and Udonis Haslem all deserve a mention as well.
Trying to kill niggas, gambling debts. God damn. This shit look like a crack house. But look, there we have it, bro. 10 scariest players in NBA history. These men out here was going crazy, bro. I can't lie, bro. I don't know what was going on in the 90s or whatever. Y'all niggas had some anger problems, bro. You know, sometimes you just really gotta sit down and just talk. Yeah, look, make sure you like and subscribe. Let's try to get to 2,000 subs. Let me know some videos I should react to, bro. I'm running out of ideas, bro. You all need to start talking, bro. I'm gonna catch you on the next video. Peace out.